Hello, time for vlog number 2. And since vlog number 1, we have been talking a lot about and experiencing a lot of post-memory. And so in Miriam Hirsch's piece that we read, she defines post-memory as the reaction of the second generation to an event that occurred in the first generation. So my group sat down with a gentleman named Yunos, something along those lines. I don't quite remember, unfortunately. And he very, bravely and generously shared his story with us about the time that he served in Afghanistan at an airport was his post. And he, told his story. He got a little emotional when he was talking about a specific friend who didn't make it out of the war. And Yolita was our translator, which was very helpful. And then when Yunos, when he got up to get something to drink, the kind of the chairman or the head of the organization sat down and talked with us. I believe his name was like Robertos. And he was much less willing to talk about kind of the ugly stuff. He didn't want to talk about like the military aspect of his time there, but he told a lot of stories about just kind of him and his comrades, and he talked about what they did in their free time. They played a lot of soccer and backgammon. And then he talked about his life after. But he was pretty closed off when it came to the actual like their duties and stuff. And so that kind of brought up another point in Marion Hirsch's story, or her article that we read. In it, on page 17, she's talking about the front gate of Auschwitz with the Arbeit macht frei, means work will set you free. And she says, but could Arbeit macht frei not also be read by and for us in the second generation as a reference to tricks played by memory itself? The illusory promise that one could become free if one could only do the work of memory and mourning that would open the gate, allow one to enter back into the past, and then through work out again into a new freedom. So this kind of made me think about Roberto's, I believe his name was, and how he was kind of closed off to remembering and thinking about those tough things. And we talked in class about how there was really no aftercare, mentally or otherwise, for these vets when they came home. So a lot of them have PTSD and mental health issues post-war because of this. And so I think if the government could have done a better job with helping them kind of go back into those memories and processing what had happened to them, they could be set free from kind of the trauma that was inflicted on them. Not entirely. I mean, those experiences will always be with them, but it probably wouldn't weigh as heavily on them if they had the chance right off the bat to process the trauma that occurred in their life. And so it makes me wonder if now, even how many years later, if those services were provided, if it could alleviate some of the stress and the mental exhaustion that comes with carrying those burdens for so many years. And she says, thus, although familial inheritance offers the clearest model for it, post-memory need not be strictly an identity position. Instead, I prefer to see it as an intersubjective, transgenerational space of remembrance, linked specifically to cultural or collective trauma. And I think that's exactly what we experienced when we spoke with the vets. It was an intersubjective, transgenerational space of remembrance. The room was thick with memories the other night. Not all of them pleasant, probably more unpleasant than not. But taking the time to acknowledge the pain that was caused and kind of pass down those experiences to help the second generation learn. After Eulos kind of told his story and opened it up to questions, one person in my group, I forget who, asked him if there was something that he would like all of us to know and remember from that he'd like us to learn from him. And he was very adamant that peace is best, that no matter the issue, the nation, the relationship, the scale, that peace is best. That if we can solve conflicts without violence, that is ultimately the best way. I really just think we need to take in what we learned with our post-memory experience with the gentleman we met last night, and let their stories teach us, so that we don't have to learn their lessons firsthand, because we don't want to have to experience what they experienced. And that's, I think, kind of one of the main aspects of this course, is using, in this case it's photography, but using the experiences of history to learn lessons, so that each new generation doesn't have to keep repeating those mistakes and learning those lessons the hard way. And so by really listening to what they had to say and asking questions like, what do you want us to learn, we can avoid a lot of heartache and a lot of trauma that isn't necessary to repeat. So I think that experience has been my favorite so far, getting to, sit down and talk with someone about what happened rather than seeing it in a museum or hearing, tour guides or museum guides' interpretation of what happened, getting to hear the firsthand account with such kind, welcoming group of men was really special. Can't wait to see what else we're doing. Bye.